He's the best there is at what he does, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's making a good movie. That's right, we're talking about X-Men Origins Wolverine, kicking off Huge Jackman month. It's Cameron Watches Everything. Hey everybody, my name is Cameron Rice. Hey everybody, it's me, Cameron Rice. I am here. Welcome back to another episode of Cameron Watches Everything. Took a little time off in December to deal with some things and the beginning of January, because we just wanted to see if we still had, a country. But thankfully we do. So decided to kick this show back off. Also need to take a little bit of a break, figure out some restructuring, but we're back and we're kicking off Huge Jackman month. That's right, an actor who I really like actually has done a lot of fantastic movies. When you've been doing it as long as he's been doing it, there might be some movies that don't quite work. Now, amongst the movies I really like are the Wolverine and Logan, but there was a film before that, X-Men Origins Wolverine. To be honest with you right now, I'm not drinking during this episode, even though I do have a drinking game for the film. The reason I'm not drinking for this episode is if you go watch my Twitch, I did a hot chip challenge, and so it didn't go well. So yeah, threw up, not voluntarily. It's all just swimming around right now in here. Feel sick. No drinking as I talk about X-Men Origins Wolverine. We open the film and we are in the past. How do you know it's the past? Because it's a big old house and people are dressed in certain ways and things are lit by candles and flame, and there's no television set. We meet a very weak young boy named James. Is that Wolverine? Yes, of course it is. That's Wolverine. We meet Wolverine's father. We also meet a young man named Victor. You're going to hear the name Victor a lot, and that's frankly our drinking game. Have a drink every time Hugh Jackman yells out the name Victor.
Victor! Victor! Why didn't you tell me it was Victor?
He's sick, but he hears this commotion coming downstairs. It's Victor's father. He goes downstairs, and Victor's father has killed James's father. Oh my goodness. And James, and this is the moment he awakens, and these bone claws come out of his hands, and he runs over and he stabs Victor's father. Ah! And it's dramatic. And Victor's father looks down at him and he goes, "Son," which, what final words to say? His mother looks over at him and goes, "What are you?" He runs out of the house, Victor following him. Victor goes, "Do you know what this means, James? It means we're brothers. We just gotta keep running. We're gonna look out for each other though." So I guess they leave the mom behind. Fuck you, Mom. You should have been more understanding of my bony bone claws that just come popping out of my hands, popping bones. He's just popping bonies. Then we get the opening credits sequence, which is actually a pretty cool part of the movie. That's the thing. There are some things in this movie that work. I'll talk about more about that in the end. So we'll go to the opening credits of this movie, which consists of Wolverine and Victor, James and Victor, Wolverine and Sabretooth, fighting through all the different wars, including the Civil War, which I don't know if Victor fought for the Union? Did he? Did he really? All right. But I guess they keep going to wars, because I guess what else are you going to do? You got nothing but time on your hands. You're living forever. That's the one interesting thing. You're jumping from like them being little boys to men. Motown Philly. And so it's like, at what point do they realize, A, that they seemingly have these healing powers? Because we don't see that when they're children. And B, when do they realize that they're like living for a very long time? When do they have that realization of the vampire curse that they can't break free of? So we cut all the way to Vietnam now. We follow these guys all the way to Vietnam. And apparently this is the point when Victor's gone too far. He's gone too far. And now, like, his bloodlust was fine when he was fighting, some decent enemies, the South and the Germans again in Vietnam. And I'm like, is this supposed to be a commentary on that the Vietnam War wasn't as like clear cut as other wars? I don't know. But now Victor's a maniac. And this is when you get your first Hugh Jackman, Victor! Which again, take a drink. Have a drink. He does it right here. So the guys are put up in a shooting gallery, shooting squad. And it doesn't kill them, of course, because they're Wolverine and Sabretooth. And it cut to a jail cell, and that's when we meet a young General Stryker, Colonel Stryker, whatever. He's somewhere in there. Stryker, who comes in and he offers these two a job, and that's when they basically join the A-Team. With such figures as Dominic Monaghan, another actor, and Will.i.am from the Black Eyed Peas. He's in this too. And also, of course, Ryan Reynolds as his first appearance as Deadpool as Wade Wilson. Much was talked about this, so, I'm not going to get into it, but we all know Ryan Reynolds is very funny. Apparently Dominic Monaghan's flying the plane. I guess they don't need a pilot. He has electric powers. And Logan asks at one point, he asked these guys, he's like, why? They land. He goes, why are we on this mission?
Why are we here?
Which I feel like that's something that Logan would have asked prior to the mission. Logan as a character always seems to be like, he wants to know what's going on. He doesn't seem to like being confused or in the dark. So why he waited until they were right in front of the compound they were going to invade? I don't know. But there he is. He asks the questions. And actually throughout this whole mission, Wolverine doesn't do jack shit. That's the thing. It's like you get to see everyone do something in this mission. Donna McMonaghan uses the elevator. Will.i.am teleport. The other guy does his gun. The Blob, who's not quite the Blob yet, he punches a tank. And then Deadpool does his Deadpool thing. Victor climbs a wall. Wolverine does jack shit. Wolverine just kind of stands around judging. Turns out these guys, they're looking for adamantium. Wolverine decides, he's like, I'm out of here. I'm not gonna be part of this, which is fine. Again, he didn't really do anything on this mission. He throws away his things, and the Sabretooth is like, we're not just gonna let you walk away. But they do. He just walks away. We cut to 6 years later. Now Wolverine, he's living in this beautiful house that's on top of a mountain. Just this beautiful house on top of a mountain. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, whose house is this? Is this his? Oh, maybe it's the woman he lives with. And I hate to say maybe it's the woman, but I tell you right now, go watch the movie. We do not learn this character's name for so long. Such a long time. We just never learn her name. So it's like, well, whose house? Maybe it's her house. That's great. Well, you know, she picked up this drifter that is Wolverine. He's working as a lumberjack. He's bringing down trees in Canada. So I'm guessing this isn't his house, because we do find out how much money he makes, which is not much. We see Dominic Monaghan. Dominic Monaghan's working at a circus. Good for him. He's playing like circus games, and Sabretooth shows up and he kills him. I don't know. Poor Dominic Monaghan, man. Good actor, really good actor. Got killed right away. So, but when Dominic Monaghan gets killed, Wolverine wakes up and he's like, oh! And he wakes up. He's got his boners stuck into the bed. His girlfriend's sitting there, and she goes like, what war were you dreaming of? He's like, all of them. So clearly now, she knows he's like an immortal being, like a vampire. When he told her this, who knows? Over drinks at the local pub. So that's when we do go see his lumberjacking job. Clearly at this point, this is when Stryker shows up. Stryker's like, you gotta join me. Victor, look at this newspaper. The newspaper's like, local circus freak killed. I'm like, who wrote this? Who wrote this newspaper? That's terrible. What a terrible thing to say. Then we find out his girlfriend's a teacher. So I don't know how much she's bringing in. How can they afford this house? Look, I'm not saying this is the big important stuff, but it's questions that I have. He's a lumberjack, she's a teacher. Does their combined salary, you can buy this isolated house in the mountains in Canada? I mean, I guess it's the 90s, early 90s. It's supposed to be the 80s, whatever. Maybe they can afford it. Good for them. The price of living has changed so much. They're talking, and this is the origin movie. We gotta get these things. We gotta figure these things out. She goes, do you know the story of why the moon is lonely? And Wolverine's like, why? And she goes through this whole story, and then she goes, do you know what that word means? It means the Wolverine. It's just one of those stories I guess you tell. I don't even know what prompted this storytelling. Like, look, I've been in some relationships. Very rarely, I almost never, is someone just going to be like, here is a folktale. Do you want to hear a folktale after dinner? I have a folktale I wish to tell. So it's the next day. Logan's doing his job. And he finds an animal head. He smells Victor. Victor's here. Victor's here. Oh my God. He goes to try to save his girlfriend. Oh, it's too late. She's dead. Victor got her. And he just says, no! Wolverine then goes to the bar that night. Victor! Goes, finds Victor. They get into a fight. They have a claw off. And Liev Schreiber as Victor is just like, he's like, you can't kill me. They get into a fight. Wolverine gets owned. Wolverine gets so owned in this fight. It's insane. It's insanity how much he gets owned. We cut to the hospital. You get that classic superhero joke. This joke's been done in a number of superhero movies. Superman. I think maybe one of the Spider-Man. It's been done a couple times. Where it's the joke about like, this guy's not hurt. Why'd you bring him here? And so we have that bit. We have that killer bit. Stryker shows up. Wolverine's like, why didn't you tell me I was Victor?
Why didn't you tell me you was Victor?
Man, and Stryker's like, I can help you. I'll put adamantium in your body. So Wolverine agrees. He's like, yeah, put the adamantium in my body. So here's the difference between the comic and the movies. And let me make it clear. I've been reading X-Men comics since I was a little kid. I've always read X-Men comics. I love the X-Men. I love Wolverine as a character. I like those first Fox movies. There's a lot of the Fox X-Men movies I really do like. The animated series, so good, holds up. Oh, a peach, that theme song. But usually in the comics, once Wolverine gets through the adamantium injection, it's such a painful experience, and this is why he forgets who he is. He forgets his name. He's no longer James. He's the Wolverine. He's Logan. Also, they don't understand why. I'm trying to remember if they say why he's called Logan. Because he called James throughout this. And then eventually they start calling him Logan. But I can't remember if that's a code name. Whatever. That fucking doesn't matter. Anyway, Wolverine is like, okay, I'll do your experiment. But that's not what erases his memory. But like, so Stryker makes him this deal. It's very sinister how he does it. Wolverine like survives obviously the adamantium injections, and he escapes. And doing so, he meets this very kindly old farmer and his wife, and they're very kind to him. And this is where we get the Roger Rabbit. People have called this the Roger Rabbit moment, and it's true. This is when we get the claws in the bathroom scene. Oh boy. Oh, I don't understand why this happened. Why did you not? We have seen the claws in the movie like as props. Why wouldn't you make them props unless you just wanted to do one of these? I do not understand. Anyway, he has dinner with them, and then we get this beautiful scene where the man is like, hey, my son died. His clothes fit you perfectly. Have this cool jacket. But that happy moment doesn't last long, because then the old farming couple gets killed. That's the problem with this. That's the biggest problem with this movie. Because unlike other bad superhero movies, or famously bad superhero movies, because there are positives in this, and like I said, I'll get into that in the end. Tone. This movie has such an issue with tone. It will simultaneously try and have like very serious, cathartic moments, you know, between these characters. There's this farmer, you know, the not Kents, who are like, oh, you know, our son died, and you understand sometimes what's better than living is, you know, these speeches that are supposed to feel very profound. But here's the thing: is like they don't feel out of place in a thing that stars Wolverine as the main character. You read the Wolverine comics. There's lots of speechifying. There's lots of like, oh, here's a deep moment for your brain to think about and go, oh, I didn't consider that. That's what Wolverine as a character is the old samurai gunslinger character. Lots of speechifying. Problem is, you jump from that to then the murder of this old farming couple, which is, I mean, it's not that dissimilar to what happens in Logan, far better movie, where this kindly farming family takes in Wolverine and all of them, only to get brutally killed by the people who are hunting them. The exact same thing happens in Logan. The reason that works in Logan is you feel the weight of those moments. Again, tone. You feel the weight of what's happening. You feel the weight of, oh my God, this awful thing. In this movie, this couple gets shot, and then we cut to the biggest in the 90s action scene with a helicopter chase and Wolverine trying to do badass shit. Wolverine's like pissed, and he's like, I'm not putting up with this, Stryker. I'm coming for you. I gotta find Victor. So he figures the way to find Victor, even though Victor's been looking for him. Victor keeps finding him. Whatever. So Wolverine's like, I'm gonna find my old team. So he goes and he finds the Blob and Will.i.am. I can't even remember what Will.i.am. Why is Will.i.am in this? I'm sorry. You had Dominic Monaghan. Why not switch these parts? Why not have maybe he was busy doing Lost. He couldn't do much. I don't know. But you have an actor who was in an Oscar-winning film, who most people really like, who anytime he appears in something, people are like, oh, cool. And you give the bigger part to Will.i.am, who his acting capabilities, oh, there you go. So Wolverine does a bunch of fat jokes that I guess the Blob doesn't pick up. It's not until he calls him Bub that then the Blob is like, would you call me? So they have a boxing match. Again, tone. Tone. So they decide, like, okay, you're gonna come with me. We're gonna go look for this guy called Gambit. We meet Gambit, played by Taylor Kitsch. Poor Taylor Kitsch, man. So another like killer actor, man. Watch Friday Night Lights. Rough ride. And I remember seeing the footage of people watching the trailer to this for like Comic-Con. Man, the crowd went crazy. You know, he's a fan favorite character, and woof. And it's not his fault. They just didn't know what to do with him. They didn't know. And so that's where you get this famous scene too, where Wolverine's cutting a ladder. Because I think the people making this forgot how gravity works. He cuts it down, but Victor shows up. Victor! They have a fight. Victor runs off. And then also Cyclops is in this movie. There's all this whole thing about abducting younger mutants. So Cyclops is in this, sure. Emma Frost too. Okay. This movie's so full of things. Like, just so much. It's simultaneously a movie. So many things are going on, and yet it's so bare bones. Where you're just like, what am I following? But what is supposed to be happening? What am I supposed to care about? Tone. So Gambit's like, okay, man. Hey, you know what? Let's help each other out. I was on that island. I hate that island. Yeah, I'll take you, man. Let's go. And then Wolverine's like on his plane. Wolverine's like, well, if it makes you feel any better, this is gonna hurt. And Gambit's like, sure does. That's the thing. These two together, it's not bad. It's got like an 80s cop movie feel to it. Like, they don't like each other. There's some snark. I'm like, man, I would have been fine with this. This should have been the movie. The movie should have just been Gambit and Wolverine hang out. There's a great Gambit Wolverine comic for the 90s. Just do that. Do that. Wolverine now, the big twist, his girlfriend's not dead. She's a mutant. She's there. But then she's like, hey, the love was real. But he has my sister, but the love was real, Logan. He's like, oh, he's all heartbroken about it. Because this is why he did this. And then we get to the famous Deadpool Deadpool. I mean, everyone's already talked about this. Like, oof. But so Victor's like, the classic villain thing. Oh, no one gets to kill you but me. And so him and Wolverine have a fight with Deadpool on top of this nuclear silo thing. And they kill him. They cut his head off. It works for now. And then Stryker is like, I know what to do. I'm going to shoot him with an adamantium bullet. So he shoots Wolverine in the head with an adamantium bullet. And that erases memory. Also, during the whole skerfuffle, his girlfriend did get stabbed. She died. So Wolverine wakes up. He doesn't remember Gambit. And there's simultaneously what should probably be a very sad scene, but it's hysterically funny. So Wolverine has no memory. He runs off. Credits. End of movie. Well, not quite. So also, pasty plastic face looking Xavier shows up too. That also happens. X-Men Origins Wolverine. Okay, so let's talk about this. Here's the thing, man. This is considered the worst of the X-Men movies, or one of the worst. I think it's one of the worst. I don't think it's the worst. So, controversial statement. I'm not going to say this is a good movie. No. But there's things about it that do work. There are things about it that do work. I think Liev Schreiber as Victor Sabretooth is honestly pretty great. He knows what movie he's in. He's having a ball. He's killing it. The running like a cat thing doesn't work. It's very silly looking. It doesn't look good. It clearly looks like guy on wires. But outside of that, man, I think he's having a great time. He's chewing some of these lines, and I think he's having a blast, and I'm all for it. He is embracing that 90s comic Sabretooth. Like, it is so good, and I enjoyed Liev Schreiber in this. There are shots that truly, because here's the thing about the bad superhero movies. Most of the bad superhero movies, it's that they're bad from obviously so many different points of view, but also they don't look great. And what I mean by that is, like, they look really plasticky and fake. They look really cheap. And the problem is like, this movie runs into that when there are scenes of special effects. The ladder, the run, the Victor running, the motorcycle sequence, all these things look very cheap. But when it's not doing that stuff, Victor and Logan in the prison in the beginning, the opening sequence, ever it's just two characters talking, it looks good. The cinematography in this is very good when there's not a bunch of special effects. The camera movements in the film are very good and deliberate. Gavin Hood is not a nothing director. He won an Academy Award, I think, like 2 years before this. Not to say the Academy Awards are the end-all be-all, but this is a guy who knows how to use the camera. Most bad superhero movies are made by directors who you're just like, what have you done before? Who are you? What is this? And this is also coming off of X-Men 3, which I did not like, and I actually found boring. The thing about this movie is it's not boring. So I actually rank it above X-Men 3, which is controversial. But I do. But at the end of the day, the issue is tone. The biggest issue is tone. The biggest issue is you didn't need to tell the story only because you already told it. We got so much of Stryker and Wolverine. Because I want to make it clear, this is not me being like, why don't you make it like the comics? Just do the comics. I love the comics. I love the X-Men. I have so many Wolverine omnibuses over there. But this is not about make it like the comics. It's you told this. You did this in X-Men 2. X-Men 2 already told the story of Wolverine and Stryker. We didn't need... So what is the point of this movie? Other than money and keep the franchise going and hold on to the rights and blah, blah, blah. And maybe Hugh Jackman wanted to do it. But outside of that, it's like, you told this. We understand William Stryker. We understand how Wolverine became Wolverine. So at this point, you're just watching this movie to see that he was a weak child, how he got his jacket. That's sort of it. That he did meet Gambit and Deadpool. Two fan favorites. He met them before in the past. I don't know, man. This movie, it's so weird. It's one of those things where you're just like, was this broken from because it's also written, the script is by David Benioff of Game of Thrones fame. But also 25th Hour. He did 25th Hour before this. And that's a great movie. That's a fantastic movie from Spike Lee. So you're sitting there going like, pretty good writer, pretty good director, good cast. So you're like, what happened? And it's just a case of like, was this rushed? Were people worried about the tone of it? Like, what? Because it seems like it's a movie that's constantly, the tone is fighting each other. It's fighting itself between wanting to either be like melodramatic, but a serious melodramatic action movie, right? Like your John Wick, something like that, right? Bombastic action, all this other stuff. Or is it a silly film where Wolverine box fights the Blob and does like Jean-Claude Van Damme motorcycle stuff? Like it's the tones are constantly fighting each other. So it's a weird movie, man, because again, there are things that are, I don't care, I'll say, good in it. I think like, again, like if there's not a bunch of special effects, some of the shots and some of the cinematography look really good. Liev Schreiber is very good. When Hugh Jackman is not in the goofier scenes, it feels like Wolverine. So, you know, but again, at the end of the day, what a film. What a film. If you haven't seen it for a while, maybe worth a poke. Get a couple of buddies together, watch it, laugh, create the Victor drinking game, have a good solid drink anytime he yells, Victor! What a hoot. But y'all, this is the first episode of Huge Jackman month. Next week, we'll be back with him and Halle Berry. Another X-Men movie? Oh, no, 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 no. No, no, no. Swordfish. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. Cameron watches everything. We're back. Make sure you like, subscribe, and click that bell for all the new videos.
Victor!